So this is like my fifth time trying to record this video. I want to update you guys on what's been going on in my life because it's been a while since I've posted here. We quit our job, we moved across the country, we started a new job, I started a business. We lived in a trailer for 4 months. Oh yeah, and I almost died with double pneumonia. And it's been crazy. It's been a lot of good stuff, there's been difficult stuff. I'm not exactly sure what the future of this channel holds, and so maybe this is an invitation for you to speak into that, or at least for me to share kind of my thought process on this with you guys. So let me start at the beginning. I was working full time as a pastor at a church in Baton Rouge, and this kind of gives you some background as to the types of videos and the content that I was uploading on this channel. I was a youth pastor, and I saw this huge gap in the youth that I was pastoring, and that was a lack of any theological care and a lack of a theological mindset and understanding. And by theology, I'm just talking about the study of God, the study of knowing God. And in Christian theology, there's more specifics to that. There's doctrines to understand, there's a lot of thought that goes before us. I think the reason that there was a deficiency among the youth was that there was a deficiency among the parents, and parents weren't raising theologically minded kids. So I launched into the series where we were going to rectify that. We were going to do theological study, but in a way that was well suited for students, and all kinds of blunders along the way. We started with logic, which isn't the most interesting subject to everyone. Fascinating to me, fascinating to certain types of people. And so this YouTube channel really chronicled that whole thing. So I would write these lessons, I would teach on these lessons to my students, and then I had all this great information, all this great work I'd been putting in that I would condense and consolidate down into a video. So that's what this YouTube channel has been. There's been a few posts here that didn't have anything to do with stuff that I was talking about in my youth group, but for the most part, this was kind of connected with that. So I was this youth pastor, and God clearly communicated to me that it was time to leave. There were difficult things with that church. I don't want to just leave because things are difficult. And so my wife and I, we were constantly praying, and we hadn't heard anything. Finally, God so clearly spoke in a way that was unmissable. I even still ask God for confirmation, saying, God, I want to be sure I really heard you. And he confirmed it over and over and over again. So we want to be faithful to that. And we quit our job without having another one lined up. I met with the elders. I put in a resignation letter of sorts. And then we tried to work out all the details. And thankfully, they treated me well. I'm hoping to treat them well, not just air out all this dirty laundry of sorts. And we started the process. So we sold our house, the place that I recorded all those previous videos in, and we had a few options ahead of us. So let me just unpack this. This is going to be a more long form video. You might like that, you might hate that, but I'm going to unpack it. So Washington is where my family and my wife's family lives. My dad is a very successful agent for a major life insurance company. He has been super successful in this. And I was in this process of evaluating all of these different options. So moving to Washington for ministry things, moving to Washington to join my dad and go through the certification process for that so I could inherit his book of business, which, to be clear, the amount we're talking about for finances as far as what inheriting that book of business would look like was just absolutely ridiculous. It's crazy. And then I was looking at Florida as well. There was that Calvinist church I interviewed with as well. And after interview one, it was like, no, it's not going to work out. But I was looking at these three options. Long story short, I went to Washington to look more closely at this joining my dad option in his insurance career. And what I learned was that anything that I would publish, anything that I would post, would be something that would have to be run through a compliance office. So, this book that I've published, I don't know if you've heard, it's called The Imperfect Church, 6 Messages for the Modern Church. It's an awesome fiction book. You should buy it if you haven't. This book has sections that mention LGBTQ issues, that mention abortion, and other things that would be considered controversial topics. And so I straight up asked, I said, if I was publishing a book that had, religious expression about these topics, would that be okay? And I was sitting with this executive, makes millions of dollars a year managing and leading this kind of branch of a sort. He says, "Yeah, that wouldn't be okay. It wouldn't fly. You couldn't do that." And I was like, "Really? Even though it's religious expression?" He was like, "Hey, I'm just telling you, it wouldn't. I'm being honest with you." He's like, "I'm a Christian too. It wouldn't fly." And so I was thinking about this YouTube channel. I was thinking about all these topics that are really dear to my heart. It's not like I enjoy railing against abortion or homosexuality, but I view these topics as things that are really important to discuss. I want the church to be a place where we are discussing these things. And I've seen up close and personal the brokenness that can accompany these things. So I was kind of faced with this difficult decision. On the one hand, like I loved all the different elements of what that job entailed. You're meeting business owners, like you're kind of running your own business. It's very like there's an immediate feedback loop where when you do well and you succeed, there's large sums of money waiting for you, payment. You can rise in the ranks of the company pretty quickly. I really enjoyed shadowing my dad. And so it was like, okay, I can enter into this lucrative financial opportunity that I'm going to really enjoy and seems like kind of a perfect fit for me. But that would mean that I wouldn't be able to proclaim these truths. And I was running into that same problem at the church I was working at, that I really didn't feel like I was able to proclaim these truths. There was backlash, there was very little support from people who I needed to support me. So it was like, am I really going to leave this ministry position where there's backlash and difficulty for this other opportunity where there'd also be backlash and difficulty? And so I decided, no, I wasn't going to do that. Like, I'm not going to take this huge paycheck at the expense of my voice and my freedom. And so, we're looking at these different options, these various different things, and we end up deciding we're going to move to Florida. I joined a friend who had planted a church in Daytona Beach. The pay was going to be a serious cut, but I'd calculated out the finances and saw that we were going to have 6 to 12 months to make it. We'd have to figure out some way to bring in some other income beyond just what the church was able to provide. Someone from the church was super awesome, and they gave us this travel trailer to live in for a period of time. And so we sold all our furniture. We packed everything we had into a U-Haul, and we drove to Central Florida where we live now. And we live with our friends, the pastor of the church. They have a bunch of kids, and we live with them for a month or so. We were going to go vacationing, and in that time, I developed double pneumonia. And literally, I mean, it's the craziest thing. We're out camping, and I had to get rushed to the ER because I thought I was going to die. I felt like I was about to have a heart attack. Like my face was pumping, my heart didn't feel good. And it turns out I was just like severely dehydrated with double pneumonia. I had a 104 temperature. It was crazy. It was super scary. And it took me about a full month of laying in bed to recover from double pneumonia. And thankfully, I'm back to pretty much 100% 6 months later. So it really knocked me out. By far the worst sickness I've ever had. And that was supposed to be like vacation time. I've just seen this. Like I knew it was probably likely to happen because every time my family tries to do a vacation or something of rejuvenation, it feels like the enemy attacks. And I'm not one to be superstitious and just say, anything that bad happens is the enemy. But I've seen it consistently enough at times where we take vacations or try to get rejuvenating experiences to know Satan attacks that because it's his way of eliminating ministers from mission. And so, anyways, I've seen that. I've seen that with my friends. I should have known it was coming. But anyways, recover from that. We take about a week more vacation once I'm able to finally like walk again without losing my breath. And we're going to the beach, we're driving around doing fun stuff, visiting national parks, having a blast. And then I began work. So in October, I began working at the church. It's called Alive Church in Daytona. If you were to Google Alive Church Daytona, you'd find the website. You could come visit if you're in the area. Would love to see you there sometime. I plugged into a few different ministry areas there, again, at a very part-time level. So I'm doing some stuff with worship, doing some stuff with media. I'm doing family ministry now instead of just youth ministry. So rather than ministering directly to students, I'm getting to minister directly to parents. That's kind of the approach with family style ministry. And then I'm also plugging into like systems and a first time guest process with the church. So I have all these fun areas of focus, and I'm putting about 20 hours in each week at that church, which in a way it's really frustrating not having as much time as I used to, where I could really sink my teeth into a problem or a project and just eliminate it over the course of a day. We're setting up and tearing down every Sunday. We're looking for a building, but Daytona Beach is really expensive. And so that's kind of what that world looks like. Now, at the same time, I launched a media business. And so you might be able to tell like it's a little bit upgraded. I have a light back there and a bunch more stored away in my media locker. And that's been phenomenal. I'll actually link a video in the description that has some information about what it was like starting a business. Long story short, I've said that twice now. God has seriously provided for that. We are now making more than we were before. And it's just crazy. Like we entered into this trailer life for 4 months, which was so small and cramped and difficult and such a blessing and such a curse. And we had no guarantee that I was going to be able to succeed in this business, like literally starting from scratch. And we're at a place of abundance and blessing. And so right now, I'm in our new apartment that we're renting. It's 1,000 square feet. It's huge. Of course, our house before was 2,500 square feet, but this feels so much bigger because we're coming from that trailer life. And God has been with us. And I'm so thankful for that. There have been difficulties. It was challenging living in a trailer, like really challenging. A lot more challenging than I thought it was going to be. And it was difficult, having double pneumonia. It's difficult only being able to work part-time at the church, and it was difficult starting a business and just the fear that came with that. But God is good. And so I'm in a place now. We've moved into this apartment. I have a video set up again that I can access without having to set it up every time. And I'm beginning to look at what is the way that I can plug into content creation for the kingdom. That's my question. And maybe that's where you could give me some input. How could I plug into content creation for the kingdom? And I'm contemplating a few different things. I'm about to begin the process of writing book 2 in the series, the Imperfect Church series. So I'm thinking maybe doing some stuff with that, whether it be even live streaming the book writing process or talking more about this book, because I put so much time, probably 600 or 700 hours into that book. There's some good stuff in there. I'm thinking about, recording maybe an audiobook of that or trying to do some, interviews or discussions with other people on that book and its topics. I'm also thinking about Theology for Teens and just like continuing on with the series that I had begun, because I have an entire note. I'll put a little screenshot up here in the video. I have an entire note that shows this whole outline, this whole plan of all these different topics. And I was basically using this teaching series as an opportunity to do like really deep research on these topics so that sometime in the future I could write a big systematic theology for teenagers. And so part of me is like, I want to dive right back into where we left off and continue on that front. Another part of me thinks about maybe plugging more into current events and trying to be a voice of reason and an antidote to the poison and the chaos that is the world. And so maybe doing some interaction with the sorts of stuff that you see if you scroll on Twitter or if you look online on Facebook, just interacting with lies, essentially. I think there could be a great ministry in just every week tackling 20 to 30 lies that you find online and the antidote of biblical truth that we as Christians should hold. I'm just seeing so many Christians compromising their views and doing exactly what is in the end of James chapter 1, which is, pure and undefiled religion is this, caring for widows and orphans and keeping oneself from being polluted by the world. So how do we do that? Like we address lies. That's a major part of keeping oneself polluted by the world, because the world is full of lies and the enemy sows them. The world propagates them. So I have, about 100 screenshots of just the craziest things I've seen as I've been scrolling on different social media platforms like X, doing research of different things. Part of me wants to just like jump in and start addressing those weekly on this channel. There's a lot of things I could do, is what I'm saying. And I want to put, 10 or 15 hours a week into doing some sort of content creation online because I think it's so important. I think there's a voice there that wants to be heard within me. So that's the life update. If you have any thoughts about what I might be able to do, what you would like for me to do, what would be helpful for you, or what you think would be beneficial to this world, leave a comment on this video. I'd love to hear from you. And let me know what's been going on in your life as well. I hope you're doing well. I hope God is walking with you. I know He is walking with you, but I hope you feel as though God is walking with you like my family and I do. I'll talk to you later.